Hello, hello, losers. I mean, lovers. It's Mia here, again reporting from the 19th level of the tower. I thought tonight we'd get a little bit morbid and talk about death. Let's talk about death, shall we? You'll have to pardon me, my camera lighting took a shit. Oh, wait a minute, you're not supposed to cuss. In the first whatever seconds, however many seconds, whatever. So we're going to be working with a lot of shadow tonight. That's crappy. Yeah. Don't mind if you hear people crying in the background. There are children who don't want to go to bed and are doing everything in their power to not get themselves into bed. I didn't have any exciting, extraordinary crafts set up for this wonderful evening, so... Oh my gosh, so dramatic. So dramatic. I thought we'd just make a quick stretch bracelet. I do want to raise this up maybe a little bit more. But I did get the landscape situation figured out. So there's that. Yeah, this is pretty decent. Maybe a tiny bit more. Tiny bit higher. And like I said, the light that I have here is pretty poopy. But it'll have to do. It's actually a little tableside clamp lamp. But it's better than nothing at all. Yeah, that's not too bad. This is just a loose piece of paper. Because I didn't like that green thing. It sucked. So we'll talk about the death and dying process. Something that I know a lot about. I've worked with a lot of dying people throughout the years. I can't stop laughing at him. That's so mean. So dramatic. First thing you want to do for a stretch bracelet when you get your elastic is to stretch it, pre-stretch it. Just give it a couple of good stretches. Because if you don't do this and it stretches naturally, which it will eventually anyway, stretch out farther than it was. But it helps it to last a little bit longer if you do it. Oh my god, so dramatic. It lasts a little bit longer if you pre-stretch it. And I usually size things to my own wrist, which is a little bit smaller. And then I add a little bit extra just so I have more to work with the knot. Because I don't like to have to make my knots real tiny. And this is just generic. The brand's not even on it. I got it from like Hobby Lobby or Michael's or something on sale. Joann. I did not grab a little thingy. One of the things you're going to want to do is put something on the end of it so that it doesn't, so that all the beads don't fall off as you're working on it. And that does happen from time to time. It's happened to me many times. I figured we would start by getting started with our little craft dealy, and then we would move on to our topic. And a lot of the information that I'm going to present tonight comes from either my own experience or a little booklet / pamphlet that we like to call the Little Blue Book. It's actually called Gone From My Sight, The Dying Experience by Barbara Kearns. And she has written a lot of books on hospice, death, and dying. There's several of them. There we go. I just tied a bead right on the end of it there. So now we have something to work with. And I'm not even sure which ones of these. I love you too. You're the best. I'm not even sure which ones of these I'm going to use. I do need to learn how to mirror the camera because I'm putting everything backwards. I got some little pearls. I think I want to put some of these birds. They're just little birds. Little kind of copper Topper birds. I want to put some of those on there, I think. And then maybe some of these. It's like fake mother of pearl, not mother of pearl, tiger's eye. What is on my leg? Oh. Fake tiger's eye. Colored beads. A lot of these are like busted. So I'd have to kind of look at them as we go along, but I think I might alternate those. I'm not really sure. I'll just pick out some and kind of go to it as we go along. You hear me blowing on them. Hairs get in there. I kind of like these. You can't even see them. Yeah, I kind of like those. All right. The situation with the kid is getting ridiculous. I might have to put us on a pause and go deal with that. I don't know about these. These don't really seem to match. I think I'm going to go with these. I don't know, maybe. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'll just mix it up. I'll figure something out. I'm going to pour some of these into the top thing. I use these little containers with lids. I get them from, I actually got a lot of these from Walmart. They used to be like 5 for $1, and now they're, I don't know, like $2 for 5. I used a lot of those for bead storage once I bust the original containers they were in or whatever. Oh, and I also have trays. And these I got at the dollar store. They're like 5 for $1, something like that. Everything's dusty and covered in dog hair. Because that's just how we roll around here. All right. So I'll actually bring this little booklet into view here. Let me see if it's backwards or forwards on the camera. Is it going to be backwards or oh, there it is. And it's actually forward. So if I mirror the camera, any typing that I show will be backwards. So gone from my site, The Dying Experience. I have this book pretty much memorized. I mean, I've been through it, but it is a great resource for people to use in their home, especially, or just, and there's even a spot for notes in the back, which I really like that because people can add their own information. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful book. It's pretty short. It's like, what, 20 pages? Not even 10 pages long. And it pretty much lays out everything that might be expected from months to weeks to minutes of a person passing away to the actual time when they do. And one of the first things that people will expect when their loved one is dying is that there really is, that wasn't really what I meant to say. One of the things to remember is that no one is the same. Nothing that happens will be the same for each person. Everybody's different. Things that might be normal for one person won't be normal for someone else. And that's really the number one thing to remember about all of this is that what's normal with one person might not be normal for someone else. Oh my goodness sakes. I hope to God you guys, can you hear that? Can you hear that? Can you hear that background noise upstairs? Chat. Just let me know if you can. So some of these colors don't exactly match. I know the lighting is so crappy. But what are we going to do? Yeah, you can hear him. That little butthole. Oh well, it is what it is. And there's no way for me to like mute myself because I stream from my phone. And the only way for me to mute it, I think, is to... Actually, there is a mute button. Okay, I just tried that out. That works. So, Hang on just a second. I am going to mute myself and I'm going to go take care of business. Okay, sorry about that diversion there. The husband is going to go take care of business for me here in a minute. What a dramatic kid. No, I'm going to let him handle it because if I go up there, I won't come back. I'll get lost in it. So I'm not going to go into color theory or any of that kind of stuff on here. That's more advanced. Excuse me. More advanced than I'm willing to go for tonight. Anyway. And I have tons and tons and tons of beads. Every color, shape that you could possibly imagine. I mean, just a ridiculous amount of them. And so I'm not going to go into color theory. Just make whatever you like, whatever you think that would look good. And as far as patterns and designs, same. I like to do some people like to make one focal bead, which is like the one major bead that is like the attention grabber. I don't usually do that for bracelets. Sorry, hang on again. I can hear both of them. I need better soundproofing. I need like a real studio or something for my whole whopping 2 subscribers. But I like to take a couple of small ones and then maybe a bigger one and then a bigger one. So maybe I'll take, I don't know if I really want to use those. I think I'm gonna, I don't know about these little yellowy ones. I don't really think I want to use those. I don't know. I can't really decide. Maybe they're too small. Let's take 2 of these little pearls. I don't even think this string will go through these, actually. It might be too big. It is. All right, so this one will have to be bigger. Bigger beads. So I'll take 2 of these. Can I see what I'm even doing? Kind of. A lot of shadow. And then I'll put I don't know. Maybe one of these guys on there. I don't know. I don't really like the way that looks. I'm having issues with my designing here. Or maybe I'll do 4 of these. I just kind of picked these out and I thought they looked decent together. Actually, I'm going to bring back those little yellow ones. Can I even fit the string through those? I should have checked. Ooh, that's going to be pushing it. Yes, I can. Okay. So I'm actually going to undo most of what I already did, which that happens with me a lot. I'll start something, decide I don't like it, and then I'll go on to the next thing. So we'll just go ahead and just plug ahead with it and kind of see what happens with it. So a lot of the time when people get a terminal diagnosis is technically a diagnosis that would cause the person to die without medical intervention within a 6-month time frame. Now that's not hard and set in stone, and along with anything else that we say tonight, it's all personalized. None of it is set in stone. It's not like if we say, okay, here's your diagnosis, and then you have to die within that amount of time. That's just not how that works. There is a lot of, I'm actually going to pour some of these out and pick some of the smaller ones, because some of these are pretty big and some of them are smaller. There is a lot of misconceptions about the death and dying process when it comes to like hospice care and what the normal and abnormal things about it are. And so we'll kind of get into those a little bit later. First thing I want to go over is the actual physical aspect of the actual dying process as it pertains to just the physical parts. And so we'll kind of do it on a chronological scale. Yeah, lighting. Dang, man. So by next stream, I have to figure out something new for lighting. I'm going to pour these ones out too. Pretty much I want to pick like the smallest ones for this. Because I might go ahead and utilize those. I don't know. I'm torn on that. It just doesn't seem to match anything. Whatever, we'll get those out of here. Bye-bye. I'll just shove them off to the side for now. So as a person gets older, their body starts to wear down a little bit. They're not as active as they once were. Things just don't repair themselves as easily as they once did. And that's a normal part of aging. And once a person receives a terminal diagnosis of what is estimated to be 6 months or less to live, they are eligible for hospice services. And hospice is essentially just a company. Sometimes they're for profit, sometimes they're not for profit. They're a company that provides additional support to people and their families through the dying process and death. And that can be very important to people because they not only help the person with the terminal diagnosis, they also offer a lot of support to the family of the person, such as a lot of them will offer bereavement services for the family afterwards. They're available 24 hours a day, which is important for a different reason. A lot of regular doctors will not prescribe the medications that are needed for hospice patients in the middle of the night. Oh, shoot, I'm not even on camera here. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. We've talked about this. And so a lot of what I'm going to talk about tonight, and sorry for, I don't know how long you've been here. Sorry about the video quality here. It's not the video's fault, but I have really, really crappy lighting going on. So my camera light took a crap. So I have this weird little table lamp. You know how it is. When you try to do something, we're going to fuck you up, right? Right? Anyway, so hospice staff, not talking about hospice house, just like visiting hospice, people who come, they'll come to your home, they'll go to a nursing facility, anything like that. And they're there to support the person, help manage medications. Education is one of the biggest things that is done. I need to find a better way to, I need to like get a little, I need to paint an X, right? And then keep my hands within the X because I can't. Anyway, this is doing this way is new to me. I've done streaming before. I've just never done the actual, like, it's usually just been me sitting there, like, talking. So there was no real detailed work that needed to be done with any of this stuff. And even as far as lighting, just the regular lighting that I always use every day was pretty much normal. So anyway, 6 months or less, again, not set in stone. And even as a hospice patient, you can quote unquote graduate from hospice, as in let's put it a different way. At the end of the 6 months, if the person is still, actually we do it every 3 months, but I digress. At the end of a period of time, if the person is still alive and kicking, there's an evaluation that happens, and we see if the hospice services are still wanted or required. And so the family can actually give up hospice at any time. That's not something they have to keep. They can at literally any moment be like, I don't want hospice anymore. And hospice is like, okay, bye. I mean, and they can help get people set up with additional services if they request those before they dip out. They don't just, throw them to the wolves. But we can step away at any time at the request of the patient or the family. I usually say family because a lot of the time, the patients themselves, by the time they get to this point, not always, but I'd say more often than not, they're not really able to make their own decisions on a lot of stuff anymore. And so I defer to the families for that. So hospice can be removed at any point or given up, and then people can also graduate, which means that they haven't had, there's a certain amount of criteria that need to be met to qualify for hospice services. And once either the person passes away or those criteria, let me do real talk with you guys, okay? If the person isn't dying fast enough and they haven't had any sort of significant decline, so pretty much if the person stays stable for a significant amount of time, I mean, a couple of months that's not expected that they have to be dying with any quickness. But if they stay stable for a really long time, that shows that they're not progressing. And a lot of the time, the hospice services will be discontinued for that. But they can be restarted again, like the very instant that the patient begins to have another decline. And so a lot of this this is just, I just heard something, I think it was a dog. So those types of things can be restarted at any time. There just has to be some sort of downward trend over a period of time. But hospice, I'd like to just state here that hospice doesn't kill people. The disease, that is the diagnosis, is what actually kills the person. So I don't want there to be any misconceptions that hospice coming to take care of the person means that the person is definitely going to die before 6 months or at 6 months. And also, hospice does not kill people. They're not about that. In fact, they prefer that the person not decline. And patients actually tend to do better overall with hospice care on board because there's a lot more attention paid to the person. Not necessarily attention like just in general, but like medically. There are extra services that can be provided, like music therapy, massage therapy. Not every hospice has these services, but a lot of them do. And again, I digress with all of that. So, and these timelines are all general. Everybody's different. I keep saying that, but I can't stress it enough. At around the 6 months prior to a person getting ready to pass away, a lot of the time they'll start to withdraw. Socially, they might spend less time with family members than they used to. When I'm over here on the side, I'm just looking for one that looks like the right size and shape to what I'm looking for. They might spend less time with family. They might not talk on the phone as much. They might not go out to play bingo like they used to. Just any of those kinds of things. They tend to start to withdraw and not be as social as they once were, whether that's, even little things like talking on the phone. They don't do as much of that as once they did. Not as physically active, so they'll spend a lot more time resting, sleeping, just generally starting to be worn out. I want to make sure these birds all face the same direction. Overall, it doesn't really matter, but I like them to face all the same direction because I'm weird like that. They'll start to eat a little bit less, maybe drink a little bit less. Usually that doesn't come until a little bit later, but it can start around that point. Okay, and then the person would, weeks to months to death, they'll start to, in addition to continuing to withdraw and sleep more, they'll start to, oh my gosh, I'm frozen. I'm having a frozen moment. Let's look at what we have here so far while we wait. Okay, the camera's on this side, and there is no light. If I move the light, I'll screw everything up. Also, the phone, if the light is too close to the phone, it wants to cancel it. So lighting YouTube videos with the iPhone is probably something I should look into. But that's kind of what we have so far. Can't really bring it up. Oh man, there's always these issues. Hopefully these first few episodes can work out a lot of the kinks as far as this stuff goes. Because I can't see squat of what I'm looking at here. Yeah, so far so good. It looks okay. All right. I'm actually literally going to open it. Even though I know this stuff by heart, I've known it for years. I've worked with dying people for years. 1 to 3 months prior to death. So my timeline was off. I said way back at 6 months. And that might have been where that weeks thing came from. Food, I said they might start eating less. So weeks before death, the person is sleeping a lot more now. And there are physical things that happen within the weeks before death, as far as the person might start to become confused as certain types of toxins might be building up in the body. There is something that happens. It's a very strange phenomenon that I have personally seen time and time and time again. And it's more of the rule than the exception. I'm just taking this one off. I want a different one on there. As a person nears death, they see their loved ones. And this is always a person who has passed away. It's never a living person. So they don't see their daughter Jo, who lives right down the street. They don't see that person. They see their sister who died when they were 12. They see their husband who died before them. It's never a living person. And I don't understand that as a factor. That's the one thing about this, because I can explain a lot of things away. I'm a very logical, skeptical person. That's the one thing that I can't explain away, logically, is the fact that it's always a person who has previously passed away. And they will see this person just as if they were standing in the room with them, and they would talk to them, and it's very, very interesting, but also kind of bizarre. And I have a lot of stories about that, but I'm saving those for a different day. Let's see here. They don't really want to, again, decrease in activity, even more sleeping, less eating. Blood pressure gets lower usually. Their heart rate can go faster and sometimes slower. I've seen it all, I'm telling you. Let's see here. Increased perspiration with clamminess. I haven't really seen a lot of that. I mean, I guess it could happen, I guess. Skin color changes. Yes, the person can be flushed with fever, or they could get paler. Most people do get more pale in color as their heart is not beating as effectively as it used to. And that also comes with the decrease in the blood pressure. There's also something called mottling, but we will get to that here in the next section. Breathing changes, respiration increases from a normal 16 to 20. It does happen. People breathe more, and then sometimes right at the end of life, they will breathe less. That's also something that we will discuss a little bit here in a little bit. So 1 to 2 days to hour prior to death. Oh, this is crazy. It says in the book here, sometimes there's a surge of energy. Now, the surge of energy is commonly referred to as a rally. The person's having a rally, they're rallying. Oops, I'm doing this way off the camera. Jaundice, you don't really see a whole lot of jaundice. Every once in a while you do. The liver usually doesn't fail quite as fast as a lot of the other body systems. So by the time that the liver is failing, in most cases, unless it's a liver failure person, you're not really going to see a whole heck of a lot of jaundice. But the skin color can be anywhere from just pale to waxy yellow to uh, grayish to I've probably seen just about every color under the rainbow as far as that goes. So the rally is a time when a person who was previously basically unconscious or not speaking, this is the time when they actually wake up, they're lucid, they are aware of their situation, they're aware of their surroundings. It's like all of a sudden they're back to quote unquote normal. They might not have eaten for days and then all of a sudden they're hungry. And at this point, if they want food, usually there's not a problem with them having it. I had a lady who hadn't eaten for 2 weeks and she woke up and she wanted eggs. And by golly, we busted in the kitchen. I literally didn't break the door down, but I did have to like push open the window and climb in it. And I made her eggs. So yeah, that's interesting. But this is, and the last time I talked about this, I cried. So yay to not crying. And like I said, off the camera over here, I'm picking through these to find a good one, the right size, because some of them are big and some of them are small. So the person may want to eat, they may want to drink, they'll want to talk. And I cried the last time I talked about this on stream. I think maybe I'm more distracted now because of having something to do with my hands. But I can't stress this enough. This is your last chance while the person is awake to tell them goodbye. Do not waste this time. The person is not getting better. They're not getting better. They are still going to die, and relatively soon. When the person has been unconscious for days and all of a sudden they're awake again, please recognize that this is kind of the last hurrah. I don't say that way to be a jerk, but this is the last time to say goodbye, because after this, death will occur relatively quickly, anywhere from days to hours after this. So I have seen many, many people waste this time thinking that the person's getting better, and then they're devastated when they pass away. And it's not something that is, it's very heartbreaking to see that. So what I would recommend is, if there's a rally, the person comes back and they're awake and cognitive, is to spend that time talking with them, laughing with them, look at photos, talk about what you love about them. And yep, here comes the crying. Like, get a chance to say goodbye, because this is the last chance that you're going to see them awake. Yeah, it's really, and this doesn't always happen. It's like, I want to say maybe one that's that significant, as in they were unconscious and now they're completely awake, is maybe one out of every 5 patients. There's definitely usually a change in, I'd say, probably 3 out of 5 patients, and then maybe in like 1 out of 5 you don't see any change at all. Let's see here. The family assumes they're, yes, that was what I was saying, is they're not getting better. They're very near the end when this happens, and so not to waste that time, to use it. I'm gonna just get a little sip here. All right, there's also something that we call terminal restlessness, or terminal agitation, I believe is the technical term for it. And that is when a person who is getting ready to die, they get very anxious. They may move restlessly, reach out to grab things. They might, oh yes, thanks, laptop. My battery's running low on my laptop, which means I won't be able to see the chat. I don't know, maybe let me move this. Oh my god. Yeah, no, I won't be able to see that anymore. That's okay. But, well, stupid piece of crap. Oh, and there it went. So I will not be able to see chat from this point on. It'll just be me talking to myself. So terminal restlessness or terminal agitation can be very difficult to watch. It can be very difficult to see because the person they can pull at their clothing, they can reach out to things, they might moan. Dude, really? Please tell me this is on a timer and it didn't just take a poop too. Okay, because the laptop is dead, now the light is dead. Just my life. Okay, well, nobody can see anything, but we're rolling with it. You can still kind of see. We might have to make a part 2 of this on another day. All right. So terminal restlessness. It can be pretty dramatic to see. They're pulling at their clothing, reaching out to people who aren't there. Moaning. Sometimes moaning is from anxiety and not pain. Dying itself is actually very painless. It's the actual disease process that is the painful part of death. You know what? I might have to pause this and go get my freaking... I might have to pause this and go get my charger because the plug-in lamp that just went off won't work without the laptop being on, and I can't interact with chat without it. So we're going to take a little breakola. And you know, I need to have somebody make me some intro music and also like some, I don't know, like a little video that I can loop while I'm taking a break to go get stuff. That would make all this a better transition so it's not just everybody staring at nothing. Anyway, give me a moment. I'm going to go and grab the charger so all the stuff isn't dead. Can you get a drink? Stupid laptop. Where's the charger? I'm gonna break the house down trying to get it over here. You guys know, I don't know if this crafting business is the streaming life for me. There actually are several other channels that I am kicking around in my head. I want to do them as separate channels and not all. I don't know. I might be able to integrate. No, just I want to do them as separate channels because I want to do some foraging videos of that, videos of like, I don't know, all the rock collecting stuff that I do. Like, just there's so many different things that I want to talk about on YouTube but integrating them all into the same channel really isn't the way to. There's so many things that it doesn't seem like everyone will. Or you gotta be kidding me, phone. I also have busted the back of my phone so my battery doesn't last. And sometimes when I plug it in, it doesn't charge. Which I swear I just saw it pop up as like 20%. But if I click off of this screen to check how much battery's left, the entire stream will just stop. I've tried that before. But again, these are all things that'll be worked out in the end. I have to remember to make sure that the stupid laptop's plugged in. Try to get a full charge on the phone before I start streaming, that kind of stuff. Terminal restlessness. So hard to watch. So with the terminal restlessness, terminal agitation, sometimes can be hard to deal with. Everybody left, they're like, oh, fuck this sucks. It can be hard to deal with, even with medications. but there are medications that can be used. It's part of the comfort medications. That's what we refer to a lot of them as. We give people morphine. There we go. All right, we're back. I'm back. I'm gonna hit play here so I can kind of see. I guess it doesn't really matter on there. Thank you. Thanks for being here. All right, so the comfort medications that we give people to help with the terminal restlessness usually use lorazepam or Ativan. The brand name is Ativan. And then we can also utilize things like haloperidol. Haldol is the brand name. Sometimes we commonly refer to it as vitamin H. Yeah, we're bad like that. And we give people morphine mainly because morphine reduces the body's need for oxygen. And your body is not utilizing oxygen as well as it used to when you're in the dying process. And it also helps to decrease secretions because morphine does actually dry people up quite a bit. And it's just a general and if there is any discomfort as far as pain, the morphine is excellent for that. Now, there's a lot of stigma with morphine because of the opioid crisis. Sometimes we even use fentanyl. Now, these are not the street fentanyl. This is not the same fentanyl that you're buying under a bridge, this, or getting in a pill that's killing people. This is medically supervised fentanyl that is, we teach people how to administer it at home, so I can't say it's administered by a medical professional, but it is provided by a medical professional in controlled doses, which are very small to start with. Same thing with the morphine. They're very, very small doses. I mean, we start off with 5 milligram doses, which is a very, very small amount. And we can raise that up at any time. Midazolam, yeah, diazepam. We don't use a lot of that stuff here, actually. Even at the hospice house, we usually went with lorazepam, and if that didn't work, we would combo it with the haloperidol. Midazolam is one we almost never use. Diazepam is used, but very, very rarely. We just have pretty much our standards. As far as pain medications, we've used everything from morphine. Usually morphine is the gold standard. You can get things like OxyContin in a liquid form. And you can use other things before the person gets to the point of, once we get to the point where we're using morphine, usually the person isn't able to swallow a pill anymore. So this is when the person is either like extremely nauseated, which we have medication for that too, which we often do give to a person if they are still feeling nausea. But usually we will do a liquid. It's just a couple of little drops. It's actually designed to be absorbed by the lining of the mouth. So if the person can't swallow it, they're still getting the medications because the inside of your mouth is actually more vascular than you realize, and your body will absorb it. And usually the prescription that we start off with for the morphine is 5 milligrams once an hour as needed. And we can increase that to 10 milligrams, 20 milligrams. We can increase it to every half an hour. I've seen it every 15 minutes even. Pretty much whatever it takes to get your loved one comfortable is what we're going to go with. Do you use Dilaudid? Very rarely on the Dilaudid. Very rarely on Dilaudid. Even in the hospice house, I didn't work there a long time, but just long enough to kind of get used to their, sorry, my birds have to face the same direction, to get used to theirs. But we did do something in the hospice house that I've never seen anywhere else, and I didn't even know it existed. That is a subcutaneous, now I'm going to call it an IV for the ease of speech, but it's not, see, IV actually means intravenous, but we use it was intra-subcutaneous, like, so intra the fat. So it didn't actually go into a vein. It went under the surface of the skin of the arm into the fat. And you could administer morphine that way. And it takes a tiny bit longer to work. So maybe like 10 minutes longer. You know, the oral morphine that we give by liquid takes about 10 minutes to work, and the subcutaneous takes maybe 20. But I didn't even know that was a thing. Comes with average 2.5 milligrams. That could be just, and that could be either your facility standard or that could just be standard in the country that you live in. I know you're not in the States. And that could even be different state to state. It could be different. I know that all of the hospice companies that I've worked with, not for, I've only worked for one hospice company, but I've worked with lots of them in my field. But I know that a lot of them have, they almost all use the 5 milligram start as a standard. And the liquid usually comes in a concentrate. It's 20 milligrams per milliliter. And so a quarter of a milliliter is 5 milligrams. So we give, 0.25 milliliter, which that sounds like a lot of math. It's really not. You get so used to doing it. You just do it without a second thought after a while. I think some places might do it by weight, but really to me, that doesn't really seem feasible, because some of my hospice patients weigh like, and I mean, I'm not even exaggerating when I say this, like 65 pounds. Because maybe they started off as a very tiny person and now they're not eating anymore. And by that time, they've probably been on morphine for a while, and we're increasing the dose gradually. So, oops, sorry, I heard background noise. And I mean, morphine is something that you develop a tolerance to fairly quickly. So we would have to increase that dosage, quite a bit and quite quickly. So hours prior to death, after the terminal lucidity, the terminal restlessness, comes what we call the active stage of dying. The transition stage is when a person goes from being alive and conscious and everything to transitioning to the change from being awake and everything to the active phase of dying. The active phase of dying is the part where the person is no longer conscious. They can't control the muscles in their mouths anymore. These stupid birds. Okay, they are facing the right way. They can't control the way they hold their mouths, so they may have their mouth hanging open quite a lot. Perfectly normal. This is the point where they don't need to eat and drink anymore at all. Unless a person is awake and able to take the food and water, we do not try to feed them, because they will aspirate it into their lungs and get aspiration pneumonia, which in their weakened state they will succumb to, like, with a quickness. So the person won't be responsive anymore. They might be responsive to what we call painful stimuli, which just means that if you like rub their arm, even if it's not necessarily painful, it's more vigorous. They might minimally respond to that. They might move a tiny bit, but usually not, especially the nearer to death that you go. Their breathing might change in a dramatic fashion. And again, that doesn't mean that they are in any distress or pain. That the breathing changes sound worse to us than they actually do feel to the person. So a lot of the stuff that we're seeing and hearing is more traumatic for us as a family than it is for the person who's experiencing it. So we have, they might not They might not urinate anymore. A lot of the times the body is so dry that there's nothing left to come out. Um, or they might. I mean, they could still. Sometimes they don't. Everything is so personalized. But these are just kind of the common things. The person will need 100% care. They will be unable to do anything for themselves. So if they do need to be changed and turned, other people will have to do that for them. And on that note, I'd like to say that turning people from side to side is vitally important for the patient because that helps keep the secretions from settling in the same spot. It also keeps their skin from breaking down and getting bed sores. But is there a cat in here? There's a cat in here. But with that comes a very real risk of when a person is very close to death and we turn them, there is something about turning a person very near to death that they can pass away. It doesn't make them pass away, but they do right after or during being repositioned. And that's not a reason to not do it because, like I said, we have to maintain their skin and their cleanliness. But it's just something to be aware of that if you have a loved one who's dying and you're taking care of them, when you're turning them, that might be the chance that they take to just slip away. And I'm not sure why that happens. It just does a lot. Sternum rub stimulus, yeah, but you don't want to. I mean, they definitely respond to it probably, but you don't want to. I mean, you just don't want to because that sucks, right? Like, damn, I'd be so pissed off if somebody did that to me while I was trying to die. I'd come back and haunt their ass. Like, and I've been more professional in this version of this video than in my last YouTube channel because, well, not because of any reason, I just have, and I think it's because I'm more distracted. But the last time I was on a tangent about number one, not sticking things in people's butts, and I just haven't got to that yet. Because the rants are coming, I just haven't got to them. I lost where I was at with that. The breathing. So the person's breathing can become very fast or very shallow. There might be a sound of congestion, of fluid buildup. That's what a lot of people refer to as the quote unquote death rattle. Fucking hate that term. I don't know why. There's something about it. I hate it. It's gross. I never use that word. I never use those words. It sucks. I just call it or sometimes they'll call it terminal secretions, which is better. I just call it secretions. There are medications that are made to dry that up. But again, you don't want your patient or your loved one, most of the time it's a loved one that, for the people who are watching this, not all of us. Obviously, there was just someone else here who's a hospice professional. But you don't want them to be too dry. It's just miserable. A lot of the time, the person might be dry anyway because they haven't eaten or drinking. They haven't eaten or drinking. They haven't eaten or drank anything for quite a while, so they're naturally kind of dried out, and that's to be expected. And actually is preferable, and I haven't gotten into why, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And I think this is going to be too long. Nope, it'll be perfect. So never mind, I'll shut my mouth. All right, so their eyes at this point might be open or they might not be. If their eyes are open, they might not see you. They might just stare straight ahead. Or when I say they might not see you, I call it tracking. They won't focus on you. They're just staring straight ahead or off into wherever. Sometimes they will reach for people still. Usually if they're reaching in the active phase, usually I take that as a sign of restlessness and will medicate the person because that's a sign of discomfort in a terminally, in the active stage, reaching out. We call it restless movements. Let's see here. The hands and feet usually they get cold. And I am referencing, even though I know all of this, for years I've known all of this, I get really forgetful when I'm on stream, so I am using the blue book as my reference here. It says direct quote from the book, and I also forget how to talk when I stream, apparently. The hands and feet now become purplish. The knees, ankles, and elbows are blotchy. The underside of the arms, legs, back, and buttocks also can be blotchy. Now, the purplish discoloration that comes with that, that's mottling. We call it mottling, mottling, not modeling like supermodeling. And this doesn't always happen, but again, oftentimes it does. And this is because the body has now stopped providing circulation in any significant way to the extremities. It's just it's just focusing on the core. And that's where it basically ends with that. But there's actually a summary here at the end of the book. I'm going to pull it up. Summary is 1 to 3 months. You get withdrawal from the world, decreased food, increased sleep, less communication. And then 1 to 2 weeks, the mental changes, the disorientation, agitation, talking with the unseen, picking at clothes, decreased blood pressure, pulse increase or decrease, skin color changes, perspiration. Like I said, I haven't seen a lot of that. Congestion, more sleeping, not eating, taking little fluids. And then days or hours, you got your surge of energy or rally, decreased blood pressure, eyes glassy, tearing, half open, irregular breathing, stop and start. Okay, the thing about the stop and start is most of the time that breathing will get faster. It will get more rapid. Yeah, no kidding. Somebody sternal rubs me, I'll punch him in the face. There's this type of breathing that is not common, but can happen. The first time I saw a person die, it was my grandmother. And she had what is called Cheyne-Stokes breathing. Cheyne-Stokes, it's not spelled that way. It's spelled more like, looks like it should be pronounced Cheyenne. But it's Cheyne-Stokes breathing. And it is extremely dramatic and difficult to hear. I mean, as a person looking back on it at the time, I was 17. I had never seen a person die before. And the hospice nurse actually warned us about that this could happen. And it did. And that warning that she gave us was one of the most valuable pieces of information anyone has ever given me in my life. Because it sounds so dramatic. It's like one giant raspy breath that sounded like snoring and gasping. And then it was like literally a solid 2 minutes before the next loud, dramatically loud, gasping, horrible sounding breath. And this went on for like 4 hours. And so, not having knowledge of that beforehand, that would have traumatized the ever-loving shit out of me. But knowing that it was a possibility made it a lot easier to bear. And that knowing that my grandmother was not in any distress was the key to having to hear that without being extremely upset by it. Again, like I said, it was very, very dramatic and very hard to hear. And I would make an example of it, but it just sounds weird when I do it. But it was literally like this dramatic, gasping, snoring, moaning breath, and then no breathing at all for a solid 2 minutes. So then, and that went on for a long time, and then she finally passed away. So I always warn people that that's a possibility of something that can happen, because somebody warned me, and thank God they did, because that was horrible. All right, I'm looking for 2 more of these little ones, and then I'm going to finish this off. Sometimes you might think a person has passed away, and they really haven't yet. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Especially if they're doing that breathing, you just gotta wait for the next breath, and eventually the next breath won't come. And the same thing with the terminal secretions. It's not hearing those secretions, they're not choking on it, they're not in any distress from it. The distress is ours. It's our distress, not their distress. Fishes, yeah, fish out of water. Fish out of water breathing is another way they describe it in the book here. I have seen people do that too, but I don't really see a lot of that fish mouth breathing. I found a person who had died suddenly of a heart attack, and he was doing the fish mouth breathing, but he had agonal breathing. That's agonal breathing is when the agonal breathing is when your, let's see, how do I put this? Your body still tries to take a breath, but there's none to be had. So like you'll see the stomach, like the diaphragm will still contract, like it's trying to take a breath, but the lungs won't actually move. Nothing will really happen. And usually when I can't do a description of it without showing myself. The diaphragm will still like look like it's trying to get a breath, and when the chest doesn't actually rise, when no breath actually comes in, you'll see the mouth kind of, I mean, like you said, fish mouth. I hate, there's a lot of terms that we use that are very commonly used in the industry that I just don't care for, and that's one of them too. And that's okay. I'm particular about certain things. So when the person finally passes away, like in the nursing facilities, we have 2 nurses confirm the death. So we have to call in a second nurse to see the person, and we both listen to their heart for a solid minute. We take a manual pulse. So like we put our hand on their, I usually do the wrist. I know some people do that. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Oh, the thing with my grandmother? Oh no, honey, it was fine. It was fine. I mean, it wasn't fine. I love her. I miss her. It was her choice to, she could have had a surgery, a very, very simple surgery. If I would have known at the time how simple it was, I probably would have encouraged her to go ahead and have it. But it was her choice, 100%. She's like, I'm tired. I'm done with this. It's too much, too much. And we're all like, well, that sucks, but okay. You know, what are you going to do? You can't make people live. All right, on that note, I'm stopping this for a second. This is a very unnecessary step, but this is what I like to do. I have a bunch of these bead reaming tools. This isn't the one I like, but the one I like I don't see, so I'm going to use this one. There's different shapes. It's a file. See, this one has like a fat end on it. This one's pointed. The one I like is the long one, but I don't see it in here. I have a caddy with a whole ton of crap in it, and I don't see the long one. Oh, there's one. Actually, in the package where it's supposed to be. How does that work? I never put anything away. Alrighty, so I found the long one. Yay. I usually take, okay, so these beads are smaller than the ones I usually end it with, but because these are like kind of a metal or an alloy, I don't think that the reamer will work on these to make the hole bigger. I'm one of those people where I actually hide my holes, and I hide my my knots. I hide my knots. I don't want people to see my knots in my jewelry. So I take the bead reamer and I make, oh, this is a small one. I'll take the bead that I'm going to hide it inside of, and I will ream the hole bigger. So, in fact, this one's too small. It's all the way at the end already. I'll make the hole bigger so that people can't see the hole. And you can't see the, I guess I will use this short one. Just a piece of jerk. There we go. So you just You have to kind of be careful because if it's glass or stone, you can actually break your bead if you're very vigorous with it. I have done that before. And sometimes this takes a long time, so I'm probably not going to actually do it very much while we're on this live stream because this can take a long time, especially with these little glass beads. And it also makes my fingers hurt really bad, especially with the really small one. Sometimes I turn it with this hand. Sometimes I'll flip it around and do it the other way. Because it really does. It makes your hand hurt really bad. Alright, so I'm going to skip that step for this video. But some of the stuff about dying again with the breathing, they're not feeling that. That's more of a problem for us. Oxygen, a lot of people want us to put oxygen on their loved one, and a lot of the time we do it anyway, just as a step. Just because it's something that we do, but we do that for the benefit of the family. It's really not, once they're very close to death, it's really not helping the loved one at all. The dying person, it's not helping them. We mainly just do that just for, it looks therapeutic. You mean the reaming of the bead? It actually is. It's very mindless, and it gives your hands something to do. It's like a fidget spinner. In fact, that's the reason why I started making jewelry in the first place, was to have something to do with my hands. Yeah, I like that a lot. It gives me something to do with my hands. I want to talk about this before I make, because I'm going to tie the knot, but I want to talk about this real quick. See, and this is actually kind of long for me. That's kind of loose if I'm going to actually wear that myself, which I think I might. I really like the way this turned out, but you can't really see it very well on here, but that's okay. See, with such a lag on here, I don't know what you're laughing about. But, oxygen, it doesn't really do anything for the person when they're that near death. It's more of a thing that we do just so the family, it just looks good for the families. It helps them feel better about the situation, so we do it. Period. I mean, they're really not absorbing that much of that oxygen through the nasal cavity. A little bit, yeah, but not really enough to make it significant. Another thing I'd like to point out before I talk about the most important stressor that I have for this situation is body temperature. It's normal for a person to run a fever when they're dying. It's completely normal, even a high fever. And the thing with that is, it's not always beneficial to give the person Tylenol. At that point, you can't give it to them orally. You would have to give it to them rectally. And a lot of the time, it doesn't work anyway. I can't stress that enough. We can do it, and occasionally it will be a little bit helpful. But the majority of the time, if the person has a fever and they're dying, we manage it more by like physical means. Like if they're covered up with a blanket, take the blanket off, put a fan on them, put a cool washcloth on their forehead, crack a window. Manage it more with physical means versus medicational means. Medicational means, that's not even a word. But it's just very uncomfortable to be putting something in somebody's butt. We have to move them and just hassle them, and you're putting something in their butt, for crying out loud. Like, just don't do it. Sometimes it's necessary to go that route. I just say that because, as a disclaimer, because I'm sure there'll be that one person who's like, well, we had to do it this one time. Okay, maybe. But did you really have to? Was that your only option? We have liquid medications. We have transdermal medications. A fever isn't going to react to the Tylenol anyway. So let's just not put Tylenol in their butt for a fever. It's not going to help. It just won't. But one of the most important things that I want to talk about as far as the death and dying process is food and water. When the person is dying, their body knows what to do. They can die without food and water. If they're awake and ask for food and are able to swallow food and water, by all means give it to them. But please do not, for the love of God, do not force feed your family member. It's uncomfortable. They could likely choke on it, inhale it into their lungs, and now you have aspiration pneumonia, which will kill them. Also, they could choke and choke, like literally choke to death. And even if they are able to swallow that food, it won't really digest properly. It will just sit in the stomach and kind of work its way slowly through the digestive tract. Or they could regurgitate it later and again choke on it that way. The body knows what it's doing. It's utilizing the resources that it already has, starting to shut down in the proper way. Just like we know how to breathe when we're born, we know how to not live anymore. So, like, we know what to do when we're born and we know what to do when we die. It's part of human nature. And as far as liquids go, you can, if their mouth looks dry, you can swab it with a swab. You can even use their favorite beverage. Like, we have oral swabs. You can squeeze the excess off and swab the insides of their mouth to keep it moist. Chapstick on the lips. But don't force liquid into a person. Again, they'll choke on it. And as far as feeding tubes go, again, it's not going to be okay. Oh shit. All right, dude. I'll talk to you later, man. I'm not telling you anything you don't know already anyway. Feeding tubes will not be effective very near the end of life. That feeding will just go into the stomach and just sit there and do nothing. The insertion of a feeding tube actually would require a person to revocate hospice or to give up hospice, because that is intended to prolong life. So that's something that is not going to be qualified under hospice. That a lot of that has to do with financial stuff. Like, we wouldn't mind it if it's still early enough in the process and the family wants to have a feeding tube inserted. That's not against hospice protocol, so to speak. It has to do with like Medicare, Medicaid stuff. If you're in the United States, a lot of it is financial mumbo jumbo. But when they get nearer to dying, the tube feeding is not good. It's just, it won't do anything for them. They're not absorbing it. They're not. It's just not going to work. But the number one thing as far as food and fluids is the IVs, IV hydration. A lot of people ask if we can give their family member an IV because they're dehydrated. Dehydration is good. We want them to be dehydrated when they're dying. It sounds counterintuitive, I know. We want people to not be dehydrated. But in this situation, that's the normal and expected and best thing to do. Because if we give a person who is at the end of life an IV, that fluid won't actually stay in the veins. It won't. We'll give it to them in the veins, but it will come out, and that's what we call third spacing. I'm over here making all these gestures like you can actually see me. I'm sorry. I'm used to being visible when I'm streaming. It's called third spacing, and what that is when the fluid that should be in the veins doesn't stay in the veins. It goes out into the tissues of the body, and that, number one, causes the person to swell up. It will give them swelling in their tissues. It will be uncomfortable, and it's just not a good thing. You just don't, pretty much, like, long story short, that water isn't staying in their veins. It's not hydrating them. It's just pouring out into the tissues of the body, and it's not helpful at all. And that's what I have to say about that. So pretty much, as a wrap up for all of this, and we're gonna have an episode. The next episode will deal with grief, including anticipatory grieving, guilt. What is it that my friend always says? Guilt versus shame, the grieving process, and those kinds of things. Yeah, I think I might do that on Friday. I know that's a big streaming day for a lot of people, but nobody's watching anyway, so I don't really care. So we'll talk about grieving and the grieving process next week. I lost where I was going with that. What was the point of that? People feel guilty about not taking, quote unquote, good care of their family member. They feel like they need to do something, but you don't. Your loved one knows what to do. Their body knows what to do. Just let them do it naturally. If they look like they're suffering, We have medications that can help with that. But if they're comfortable, just let them alone. Just let them be. Let them pass naturally and comfortably and not mess with them too much. And when I say that, I mean like, poking them full of holes and filling them full of fluids that they can't absorb. The body knows what to do. You don't have to do anything except for be there with the person and love them. Unless you know they're a person who doesn't want people around, like my grandpa. He always says, I don't want a bunch of people sitting around watching me die. So I didn't. I didn't. And I feel no guilt about it because that's how he was. I'm laughing about it even. Oh, I just pulled a bunch of these off of here. I'm laughing because he was a grumpy ass old man who didn't want people messing with him while he was trying to die. So I didn't. And that's how he wanted it. So like I said, we'll talk about anticipatory grieving, the grieving process, that kind of stuff. Maybe some of the stuff about the funeral industry in the United States and how corrupt they are. All right. As we get ready to end this, I'm going to put the knot on. Now, I always mess it up. You're supposed to like make a kind of like a granny knot one way, and then loop it around again. I don't know if you can even see that. So you got your one crisscross knot there, and I can't describe it. If you need help, you can look it up on. And I always do this the wrong way because you do a second one right on top of the first one, right? So you have them like this to where there's one knot below and one knot above. I have them side to side. There should be no beads inside of there, so get out. Go on, get out of there. All right, so I got to pull it tight again because I knocked it all loose. All right, here we go. We have two knots, one there and one there. And I'm going to pull them tight. Gosh darn it. I can do this perfectly when I'm not trying to perform. But all the bees are trying to get in there. Stupid little jerks. It's really hard to get them to do what you want them to do. All right, got it. I got a hold of it. Probably won't stay that way. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it anyway. I'll get the beads out. I'm not going to pull it tight because I can't get it to do it. And I don't want to sit here for 2 hours trying to get it on the stream. And there's a bead in there that won't get out. So I gotta loosen it back up and get that bead the heck out of there. All right, so like I said, this should all be pulled tight. There shouldn't be any of this extra string here, but I'm doing this for the sake of the video. You pull it tight, and if I did it wrong, when I pull on it from either side, it'll come apart, and I always do. I do it every time. Oh, I didn't. I did it right. If you do it backwards, when you pull on it like that, it'll just, the knot will just come undone. It will just flop apart. And I can't remember which way is which, so sometimes I do it. Usually I do. For this one, I'm actually going to have to cut this and restring this, but that's okay because I didn't want to mess with it too long on video. And I actually, and since I usually widen the hole on one of these beads, usually I can pull the knot inside the bead. Actually, this one might be big enough. Yeah, it might be. I usually pull the knot inside the bead, but before I do, and I'm not going to actually put any on there because I'm not going to keep this one. Feel guilty for feeling relief. That's one of the big things. I use this E600, which I think is upside down. E6000, pardon me. It's actually more of a rubber cement than glue. Like if you use super glue, it'll hold, but eventually it will become brittle and it will break your strand. This is a little bit more flexible, so it won't eventually shatter and cut your string in half. This is like the best glue ever. Flexible. I'm trying to see what it actually says. Industrial contact adhesive. It's not that bad. If you get it on yourself, it's not gonna like mess you up like super glue will. So usually I put a little drop of that right on the end of the knot and kind of work it around with my finger, and then I pull it inside the bead. It's a lot easier than trying to force the glue inside the hole with the bead, with the knot, the knot. So you put it on and then just pull the whole thing in. And then again, there's a lot of slack on this because of how I did it, but this is kind of what we ended up with. Sorry, lighting's crappy. I can't see if it even shows up or not. Yeah, so ideally there wouldn't be any slack in the line there. Actually, I can probably bring this down. And a lot of this is the phone automatically correcting. I'm going to look up and see if there's a way to do how to do the lighting without the cell phone jacking it up. Because when I bring it down, the phone adjusts itself to make it like to normalize it out. I'm gonna do probably a practice, like a quote unquote practice stream, where I just mess around with the the settings, what's the best way to make things look right, and then maybe I'll just talk about whatever. So there might I'll just baloney, just talk like a Q&A or just what I call a bullshit stream, just to talk to people and also get all my shit figured out. But at least I figured out how to do landscape, so we're in the right direction, right? Right? I also learned today that I need to keep my laptop plugged in and start off with a full phone battery just in case it decides it wants to take a crap on me. It would also be helpful if I stopped fucking around and actually got my phone fixed. So I think that about covers it for tonight. Like I said, Nick's stream will probably be on Friday. Don't hold me to that because I'm trying not to be super sleep deprived on these like was my habit before. That's not my shtick anymore. Although it was quite hilarious sometimes. And I have had kind of some plans on how I wanted the context and speech flow in these episodes to go, and I haven't really. There's a persona that I wanted to put on, and honestly, it's not. I'm just not a persona kind of person. Like, this is me, this is who you get. On the intro and the outros, I might still do that. It's kind of a Stephen King reference for anybody that knows. So when I say like losers, I mean lovers. That's from It, from the new movie It from 2017. Which I actually changed the banner. So anybody who's still watching will hear this extra blah, extra blah blah, and kind of get those references. Even the name Mia is from the Dark Tower series. It's Mia, mother of none, or mother of one after she has her baby, but that's where I kind of got that name from. So it's a Stephen King reference. We're done talking about the content. If anybody wants to leave that hasn't already, knock yourselves out. Now I'm just kind of picking up my mess and just kind of talking a little bit. So I'm going to actually raise this camera back up. And I'm going to tape this down for the next time. And it won't be the same one. I'm going to use different ones, I think. So yeah, that's kind of how it is. Actually, I'm going to sort these beads here on camera. So yeah, I kind of had this, I wanted to go with this kind of Stephen King esque shtick, which I still kind of am leaning towards that. It's just not playing out quite as I imagined it in my mind. I'm actually starting to lose my, oh, thank you. Thank you. If I showed you the bracelets, actually, hang on just a second. Hang on just a second. Oh, Jesus Christ, I can barely lift it. Now, I'm going to tell you, these are not all bracelets. There are many necklaces and a few earrings and even some ankle bracelets. I literally can barely lift this thing. I can barely lift it. It's a giant, there's my hand for size reference. It's a giant tote of shit that I have made. I can barely lift the thing. I can't lift it at all with one hand. Oh, I hope you didn't just see me. Not supposed to be on camera. And this thing won't lower down. There it goes. We talk a bunch of shit. Oh yeah, we do. I mean, good God, there's a bunch of bracelets. And some of these aren't that great. Some of these are like my first. Some of them even have price tags on them. This is one of the first necklaces I made. Some of them are single strand, and they're like, and this one has a, this is a set, has a bracelet that goes with it. And it has a little kitty cat pendant on it. I even bought bales. This one actually, tonight for the sake of ease and time, I just made a stretchy bracelet, but I can make bracelets with the clasps, which I like to make them, but I don't like to wear them. Whenever I make jewelry for myself, I make it just stretchy. I got a bunch of Christmas. I have memory wire. Ooh. I have memory wire in about every color. I actually have some that are for necklaces. I have bracelets for every season. Here's the three that I'm not going to show that. That's crappy. Like I said, some of them are multi-strand. Some of them are single strand. Some of them have clasps. Some of them don't. I have earrings. I have themed ones. I have ones that are just random colors. I have some for men. I mean, it's ridiculous, dude. And like I said, I need to set up an Etsy store or something, dude, because I have so much of this stuff. I had my best luck actually selling these at work. I had like a little, it was literally one of those not a pegboard, like a cork board that people put notes on. And I just like set it up by the nurse's station. And employees bought a bunch of the stuff. Yeah, when I was trying to lift that tote, I broke the stupid handle off of it. But there's so much. Oh, I even have resin stuff too. Like I made a bunch of these resin, like they're barrettes. Thank you for hair clips. They're not. These are my first ones I ever made. They're not great. This one has flowers in it. Like I said, the lighting is real crappy. I have resin pendants. I have. Oh yeah, man, we've talked about this, and I'm like, hey, I have a bunch of this stuff. I have resin. I'm trying to find a necklace with a resin pendant on it. I'm not seeing any. And I don't know exactly where the box is right now, but I have a little, like a, not a shoe box, but like about half the size of a shoebox box of resin stuff. There's pendants and rings and just all kinds of stuff. Oh, I broke one. There's a bunch of beads rolling around in there. Like I said, just tons and tons and tons. I've been making this stuff for literally like 10 years. And I did try to go to I told you about that. I tried to go to the flea market once, and they like basically told me to fuck off because I got sick. There's one of the pendants. This is the black and yellow, which people in my state would just fucking go nuts over. You can't see the intricacies of it on here because the lighting is crappy. This is like really, really swirly and pretty. But yeah, I have just shit tons of that. Well, I know, but you do, but I'm not supposed to like face docs myself. You know what I'm saying? So maybe on one of the next streams, because a lot of these are really tangled up, maybe on the next stream, maybe I'll sort through some of these because they're all tangled up. I might sort through them and put the sets in Ziploc bags or something just to keep them separated. So maybe while I'm doing the, well, actually next stream I'm supposed to be messing with all my stuff. You know what I mean though? Like I might do that on one of the streams or in between, or it doesn't always have to be a craft. It could be a something else. Oh, and on the last stream I was gonna show this. I was gonna use this thing. It's actually technically a makeup brush, but those paper crafting chicks love these things. They're really good for stencils. Let me grab a stencil real quick. I just want to show you this. We'll use the brown. Where's the stencil though? I know I have piles of them. If I touch anything, it falls over. Alright, here's one. These are great for stencils. Better than the, One of the best ways to do a stencil, if you can without ruining your book or ruining your paper, is to tape down the sides of it so it doesn't lift up while you're trying to, and move around while you're trying to do this. Because it'll want to. Because you can't hold it, you can't really hold it still. It's going to move around. Let me do a part that's actually on the camera. All right. Yeah, these brushes are great for this. Oh, that doesn't even, I didn't get any. All right, we'll do this real quick and then we will end. I just want to get enough on there to show you what it looks like. I love this. And then you can also switch colors and do another color on a different part. I really like these brushes for that. So that's about all I have for today. Still trying to organize this craft room. Like, I want to do some journal stuff on here, but it's just the journaling supplies are just a fucking nightmare. Yay, fuck monetization. It'll never happen anyway. Alright, losers. It's been Mia reporting from the 19th level of the tower, and I will see you probably on Friday. Long days and pleasant nights. And then remember how to end the stream, because everything's so convoluted up here. It's broken.